Wow, you are just full of beans. First I thought he had gas, but she meant coffee. And he's like, I know, I'm loud. It's just my Asian culture. And she's like, I don't think you're loud. Well, Meghan, you think something's off because you just told him he was full of beans, whatever that means. I've literally never heard of that before. So I don't know if they just cut a lot and we didn't see him standing on his head and running the length of the kitchen and hopping on the island. Maybe there were scenes I didn't see, but from what I saw, there was no call for her to be like, you're just full of beans. Is it because he threw his sweater off set? Because he, unlike you, realizes that he can't have something tied around his neck while he's trying to cook a meal? Hello, how are you? Welcome to my channel. My name is Cheer Denise. We're going to do episode 3 of Meghan's Show with Love. Now, her guest today is a man named Tan France, and I'm sure you've seen him around. He's done lots of things. He's a designer, a TV host, and so I'm sure you've seen him. He also has a deal with Netflix. So like all of the guests that we've seen thus far, even including Chrissy Teigen, because she got the gig through John Legend, who has ties to Netflix. All of these people are Netflix people. And I really think that we've seen the end of Meghan's organic friendships. I think she's pulled on all the people who would have potentially done the show for her in season 1. So I think season 2, it's going to be chock full of Netflix people. Is that like the end of the world? No, I just think that Meghan had said in her Bloomberg interview that we talked about that she had wanted to raise capital on her own for her own business. And then Netflix reached out. And, quite frankly, only a fool would have been in her position and thought, no, I'm going to forge ahead on my own. She's a pariah. And people don't want to be associated with her in Hollywood. They think she's kind of an embarrassment. So for her to have thought that she could forge ahead and raise money on her own was ridiculous. And if Netflix was willing, and since she already had a deal with Netflix, because they were going to do several different shows with Netflix, their Polo documentary, the Harry and Meghan documentary, it only makes sense that since she needed a backer of some sort, she would have done a show with Netflix. People do these business deals all the day long. Lots of celebrities have done it. So I'm not saying, oh, look at poor Meghan, she has no friends. But I am also saying, look at Meghan, she has no friends, because there was probably 2 or 3 organic friendships in the last season. And now we have nobody. It's all Netflix people. All right. But let me just say real quick that Tan is a real blessing on this show because he is lively. He's energetic. He's not afraid of the camera. He's comfortable in the kitchen. He's just comfortable and he can keep up his end of the conversation. And so for once, we have a show that is more entertaining to watch because he's a more entertaining person and he's comfortable with himself. I'm sure he's gotten there because if you've seen him talk about anything over time, he talked a lot about how uncomfortable he was when he was younger with himself. I don't know if they were from Pakistan or India because he said different things in different times. But anyway, being from that part of the world, he was raised in Liverpool and he was different and everything about him was different. But he's worked through that. And you can see that if it's not behind him completely, it's doesn't matter the way it used to. But for Meghan, who is still vastly uncomfortable with herself, for her to be in the presence of somebody who's made peace with himself, she doesn't know how to deal with it. And even at one point, we're going to see her. She's going to try to dim his light because he's comfortable with himself and she isn't. And it's very awkward, but also very rude, but also very typical of Meghan on the show. Every single episode, there's a situation where she's rude to her guest. And I don't know if she was raised in a barn, in a zoo, what. But she seems to equate rudeness and bluntness with being relatable. And those are not the same things. All right, let's get into this episode. I do want to just let you know going forward, I've been trying to use film reel from the show. I mean, it's been janky footage, but it's kind of to give you an idea of what's going on in the show. And I've kind of done a voiceover. In the past, I've never had problems doing that. The last episode, Netflix was real feisty about it and was all, so I can't do that anymore. And I would love to be able to play the whole show for you while I just talk over it, but I can't. So we're going to use stills and hopefully Netflix doesn't get mad about that. So just forewarning you, I know some people really like more visuals while I'm talking, and I would love to give all of them to you, but I would also like to keep this channel monetized. So, okay. Opening scene, Meghan is going to a bookstore. You will recognize this bookstore if you watch the Bloomberg interview that she did, because this is one of the places that she goes to with the woman that interviews her. It's a beautiful bookstore. Meghan appears to be friends with the owners, and so she's going to go to pick up some books for Tan's kids. Tan has 2 little kids. And she says that she thinks that when you are going to meet with somebody who has children, it is a beautiful idea to give the gift of story. Just need Meghan to take a chill pill with all the profundities. why does she always have to phrase everything like she's just really giving you a gem, something to really chew on, pearls of wisdom, if you will? Do you like to give the gift of story? I like to give people kids' books. I mean, I love giving kids books, and I think it's a really beautiful kind of gift. It's one that you get to build memories around. I love children's books so much. So I am 110% behind the idea of this scene. I have no problem with the scene. But my problem is, why can't Meghan just give some kids books without trying to act like she has tapped into this psychological need that children have for story? That might be true. I think kids actually do learn quite a lot from story, and I think that there is so much that children learn from the themes of a book about bravery and courage without a book being preachy, right? So I'm not even against what she's saying. And this is where it's a me problem, because I need to not be so easily offended by everything that she does. I mean, I need to quit being so reactionary. If you want to be relatable, just do good things and just be a normal person about it. You want to give some people some books? Give some people some books. I like to give the gift of story. Okay. I am pretty critical about kids' books, I will be honest with you. And this is just as nitpicky as it's possible to be. And I understand that I'm about to just... If you thought I was nitpicky before, I implore you to fast forward this part if it's going to annoy you. But I'm telling you this much right now. This scene where Meghan just at random pulls a bunch of books off the shelf and goes, good, yep, let's go. As a person who deeply loves and cares about children's books, but is highly critical of what is out there, this scene ground at my soul. Because if you're going to give kids stories, you need to be really, really, really intentional about what books you select. Now, granted, she may very well have done her due diligence in picking out what stories she wanted to give prior to, and this is just them, fulfilling the scene requirement. She goes in and picks out some books, right? So I don't want to judge her intentions just because it looked super willy-nilly when she went to go, she just grabbed the first 5 books she saw and walked out. But I feel like if we're going to give the gift of story, we're going to have to do better than, I don't know, You Matter. What a dumb book. I could do an hour episode on kids' books and the trajectory of just degenerate books out there. And I'm not even talking about morally degenerate. I'm talking about storylines, art, messaging, how much political messaging is in kids' books, how much propaganda is in kids' books. There is so much trash in the kids' book world. So I think for me, this scene grated on me just because I was like, this is important. And you're right, story is important. And I don't know, just her flippantly grabbing a bunch of books and then trying to get a gold star for having done it. I'm like, you don't get a good gold star if those aren't good books that you just handed to that little kid. Anyway, I'm getting a little bit heated about something that's not that big of a deal. It was 5 seconds in the show. I will say that amongst this stack, she slipped in her own book, The Bench. So you can see how much she really cared about giving the gift of story. Then after that, she goes home. We have to have a whole session on wrapping. Remember last season, she wanted us to know that she had a job one time, wrapping presents at Christmas time, one of her many, many jobs. And so she wants to wrap again. She's a good wrapper. All of her presents look really nice. And I would say, too, that once again, this show is really pretty. And if the show is there to remind you to put little bits of beauty in your everyday, which I think that is one of her mantras, yes, for sure. It doesn't really take that much extra work to make something look pretty. And it is really nice to get a beautifully wrapped gift. My mother-in-law is really good about that. I think I mentioned that the last time Meghan was wrapping presents. And every time she gives me something, it always feels extra special because she always wraps it really nicely. And I love that. The same thing with Meghan making sure her kids' plates are really pretty. I don't dish up my kids' plates because they're beyond that age now. But when I set the table, I always try to make the table look really pretty because it is a way to love your family. So I don't want to poo-poo on everything that she does because it is a good reminder to add beauty where you can. It is a small way to let the people in your life know I appreciate you enough just to make a pretty environment. And even if they don't even realize that you did it as an act of love, when they leave your home and they remember how good home felt because of those little touches of beauty, that is a gift that you're giving them. And it's they may not realize it now, but they'll realize it later. So I don't want to act like her mission in the show of reminding people that you can make little moments beautiful. That's not a bad thing. And if I heard that from anybody else that I liked and respected, I would be like, oh, good reminder, But for whatever reason, when Meghan says it, I have to act like, oh God, poison. It's not poison, So her wrapping the presents nicely, good, great. Just a reminder, take a little extra effort to make it nice. Good. All right. Then it's time for her to get ready to have Tan come over, right? So she decides that she's going to make a little fruit platter for them to enjoy because he's going to bring over some bread that his partner baked, and then they're going to make French toast together. Tan makes French toast a lot at the house, and that's the recipe he's going to bring to make. Meghan goes ahead to make this fruit platter, and she says she's going to make a gray lavender latte. Okay. I think for me, this scene was annoying because she makes a big deal about making this tray of fruit bountiful. She's like, for me, it's really important that it looks bountiful. Anybody who's going to make a fruit tray, that's the objective. And then she's like going to give you a little pro tip. You know what the pro tip is? Add grapes, because that bunch of grapes just makes it look decadent. I mean, haven't we known this since the first time you ever, as a kid, drew a bowl of fruit or whatever? That's the first thing you added. It's almost cartoonish in how common it is to associate grapes and decadence. You know? Meghan just... I'm willing to give her points where she's reminding us that beauty is important, right? I'm willing to concede that. But when everything is always that theme of like basically telling us something we already know, like I can only consume so much of that. I already know that it's important to add little beauty, but the extra reminder is good. But to tell me that pro tip, add grapes to a fruit plate for decadence and an overabundance. What? Duh. Okay. She lets us know what they're going to do that day as she gets ready. She's like, we're going to make the French toast. We're going to make these little fruit pies, these little hand pies, as she calls them. And she admits to you that she used to love them from fast food restaurants. She used to. Isn't she relatable for liking McDonald's? She loved a little McDonald's hand pie once, a long time ago, when she used to let herself do that kind of thing. You know what would be relatable is we saw her do a drive-thru now and just get one without talking about it. Just like getting one and eating it and talking to us. That would be relatable. But instead of talking about like once a long time ago, back when I was a peasant, back in my hobo days, I used to sometimes go and get a hand pie from one of those fast food places. You know what I'm talking about? Okay, and then she also says that they're going to do some crafting. Okay, finally Tan arrives, right? He comes in with his little bag of bread and his big personality. He's great. And we're so glad that he's there because we've been alone with Meghan for a little while now. And Tan comes in with his bag of bread that his partner made. Meghan's excited. She gives him his latte, and they have a little chit chat, before they dive right in. While they're getting ready to make the bread and everything, Tan came in wearing a sweater over his shoulders, but we're getting in the kitchen. He's got to get rid of that. So he's like, oh, I need to get rid of this. And Meghan's like, oh, can I take that for you? And he's like, no, that's okay. And he like throws it off, like offset, And Meghan's like, oh, or just make yourself at home. Okay. Yay. Love that. She's so awkward. She's just so awkward. I mean, just make yourself at home. Well, he just did. So to say make yourself at home in the tone that she did makes it sound like she's indignant that he would be so free so readily before she invited him to do so. And anyway, he's cracking some eggs and she's like, oh, good. Yay. Love that. And I don't know if she's trying to compensate for the fact that she kind of just was a little bit ruffled by his comfortability, and so now she's trying to act like everything he does is great, but it's awkward that the chemistry is not great at the beginning of this show. He is just delighted to be there and is trying to be a warm presence on screen. And she says to him, wow, you are just full of beans. Did you already have coffee this morning or something? Let me just say that he's not acting, in my mind, like some kind of frenetic weirdo. Now I'm a person that talks fast. I have big feelings and emotions about things. So maybe I'm like, oh, Tan, you're right up my alley. We kind of relate to the world in the same way. But she can't handle it. And I think it's incredibly rude that she would be like, you're just full of beans. At first I thought he had gas, but she meant coffee. And he's like, I know, I'm loud. It's just my Asian culture. I always wonder, says he, why there's not more of us on TV, because we are just a people that love to entertain, and we are always just looking to be the people pleaser in the room and the entertainer in the room. And she's like, I don't think you're loud. Well, Meghan, you think something's off because you just told him he was full of beans, whatever that means. I've literally never heard of that before. Have you ever? First of all, I would never in all my wildest tell somebody that they were acting a little bit over hyped up. I just wouldn't say that, especially in the context of this show. You know, if somebody was acting hyper and out of control like another adult, which he wasn't, by the way, that's the other thing. So I don't know if they just cut a lot and like we didn't see him standing on his head and running the length of the kitchen and hopping on the island. Like maybe there were scenes I didn't see, but from what I saw, there was no call for her to be like, you're just full of beans. Is it because he threw his sweater off set? Because he, unlike you, realizes that he can't have something tied around his neck while he's trying to cook a meal? Anyway, he tries to say he sort of apologizes, and then she's like, where did you get that from? I don't think you're loud or anything. Yes, you do, Meghan. And once again, you run your mouth, and then you're trying to compensate for the fact that you let your mask slip again. You are constantly letting people know who you really are because you're not that great of an actress. You can't even get through an episode without letting people see that you're annoying and that you're annoyed by them. But then to act like, wait, why are you saying that? Because you just insulted him and his personality. As they're talking and drinking their tea, they're talking about the bread that Tan brought. He said his partner makes this bread every day. And so Meghan's like, oh, it must be pretty easy bread to make. And he's like, no, it isn't. It's actually really complicated. Meghan's like, how does he have time for that? And Tan says, well, he doesn't have time for that. But it's just this thing that he does like every day. Like if there's a toddler having a meltdown or whatever, he goes off and he makes bread. And Meghan's like, oh, it's his moving meditation. It's his moving meditation. And she, like, they have kind of a laugh about that. And then she's like, mine is a glass of wine or yoga. Like, Meghan, we all know it's wine, okay? It's not yoga. It isn't. That leads them into the process of making it. And as they're making, they're talking. And he's showing about how, if you've got fresh bread, the best thing to do is to toast it because then that'll kind of dry it out a little bit. And then it'll absorb your liquid better. So Meghan's like, oh, that's good. Okay, that's good. That's good. Yeah, tell them that. And he keeps kind of talking about it a little bit more. And she's kind of trying to hurry him through it. We know Meghan loves to zap somebody before they can get out their pro tip. She wants to rush to the punchline and get it out before them. And she didn't know to tell you to toast the bread first or to fork it in order for it to absorb the liquid better. And so she just wants him to hurry up and stop talking and stealing the limelight from her. As they're cooking, she says that she loves to make breakfast for her family. She makes them a hot breakfast every morning. She's already told us before that she does not have time to make dinner every night, so she doesn't bother with that. But hot breakfast every morning is important for her. And she wants to let you know that breakfast is really important, and it's not actually that hard. So for all of you people out there who aren't doing it, it's actually not that hard. It takes like 5 minutes to care for your family. If you love them, you would know this, but And she says that it's important because you need to set your intentions for the day. It's a great moment to just gather the family together and just understand and be and like instill in your family that connectivity is important. And just the way she talks about it and trying to like this talk of like setting intentions and all of this, it's like, no, there is something deeply profound about sharing food with people, but we know that because we're human. I don't need to philosophize about it. I don't need to psychologize about it. I want to eat with my kids because I birthed them from my womb and I love them and I want to sit and eat with them. I don't need to think about why am I having breakfast with my kids. I don't need to give myself a pep talk about why I cook breakfast for my kids. I do it because I love them. And that's all I need to know. I don't have anything beyond that. I don't think about setting my intentions for it, It's the same as like when she's like, I like to give the gift of story. Okay, like those are important things, but they are profound without words. And you trying to vocalize about it just makes it seem stupid, which I suppose it shouldn't, but it does. Anyway, moving right along, as she gets the food cooking, she talks about how she likes to sneak in good things into the kids' foods. When she makes pancakes, she always likes to add some flax seeds and chia seeds. Oh, where have we heard this before?
On a busy night, what is your go-to easy kids meal?
Oh, that's so easy. That's so easy. On the longest day where there is no time and you don't want any fuss, frozen chicken nuggets, frozen tater tots, they both go in the toaster oven. My daughter loves macaroni and cheese, so one of the ones from Annie's, quickly whip that up. I do put in some chia seeds or flax.
Flax seeds and chia seeds, okay. I feel like flax seeds and chia seeds, while they might be good for you to some degree, what information has she received that she should think it's so important that you know that she's giving these things to her kids? This is the second time, the macaroni and cheese and now the pancakes. And she said it before in season 1 that she's always trying to sneak in the flax seeds and the chia seeds. What are in the flax seeds and the chia seeds? Okay. I know, good omega-3s and all of this. I guess I'm just confused and confounded as to how she can discuss making the frozen French fries and the frozen chicken nuggets, but she's going to redeem it all with a couple of flax seeds and some chia seeds sprinkled into the mac and cheese. So weird to me how she picks these certain phrases and these certain ideas, and then she just keeps saying them like we're not going to remember that she said it before. She's so much like Kamala Harris in that respect. Do you remember when Kamala Harris used to do that? She'd come up with like a couple of things that she knew to say, and then she would just keep saying those same sound bites over and over and over. And it's like, do you have any other setting besides these ones that we're seeing constantly? They finish making the food, then she starts to plate the food. She talks about making it really pretty. She puts flour sprinkles on top of one portion. And then Tan asks her, knowing full well, what was that you just put on the pancakes or on the French toast? And Meghan's like, oh, flour sprinkles. And he's like, that is the gayest shit I've ever seen. And I mean, you're not lying, Tan. You know? Meghan laughs like it's the funniest thing she's ever heard. And then he, kind of tries to reel it back and be like, I mean, that's nice. It's really nice. It's a nice way to make that fun for the kids. So both of them are kind of like saying things and then trying to not say things. Okay, let's get on to the crafting, which is not a great project. Before I tried to give accolades where I could, I said that the marbling on the silk scarves was nice and the resin jewelry was fun, but now we're doing a project straight out of the Vacation Bible School 3-ring binder. We are going to paint aprons with acrylics, but we're going to use vegetables as stamps. You guys, I can just feel the August sun beating down on the fellowship hall while we cut out our hearts and stars from our potatoes, and we cut a stalk of celery in half so that we can make roses. You know what I'm saying? It's like, this is a crap project. I don't know. It is kind of a kiddie project, so I think it would have felt more fulfilling maybe to watch if we were watching kids do this project, because it is very, very childish. But I think that's the point. I think she was showing him something he could do with his kids. But this is very much like the episode that we saw with Mindy, when Mindy is over there preparing a child's tea party, but there's no children at the tea party. It felt ridiculous to have these 2 grown adults having a tea party that was for kids, And that's what this feels like. We're watching 2 adults with what appears to be quite limited imaginations making these aprons, and I don't know, you guys, the end results weren't great, but would have been fun if you were a kid, so this scene just took way too long. The one redeeming factor from this scene was that they start talking about relationships, and she wants to know how Tan met his partner. Tan tells a very wild story about how 16 years ago, he and his partner, who had just literally come out of the closet, met online, and then they just fell in love and got married. Okay. 16 years ago? What year was that? 2009. Well, what was I doing? I guess we were online then. I hear 16 and that sounds like so long ago, but then I'm like, oh, 2009, that's when I met my husband. Okay. I wasn't it was not the dark ages. Okay. So he asks her, he's like, I'm known for asking really personal questions. So when did you fall in love with your husband? When did you know you were in love? She says that she knew she was in love with Harry on the 3rd date. And he's like, 3rd date? And she's like, well, I mean, you get really close when you're with somebody in a tent. You guys, can we just talk about this for real quick? You know that we've talked about this many times. I mean, both when we read Harry's book, Spare, and then when we read Revenge. By the way, if you've never enjoyed that content, help yourself. But we talked about how they went to Botswana and stayed in a tent, and it was their 3rd date, according to both sources. That is some wild bleep, is what I'm telling you right now. If you had a friend who had just met a guy, and the extent of her time with this guy was one date that supposedly he was late for, and then another short evening date. And then he says, hey, do you want to go to Botswana with me? And then your friend was like, okay, well, I mean, it sounds fun, So we're going to go to Botswana and go camp in a tent for 5 days. Wouldn't you be like, friend, no. He's gonna murder you. This is a plot to a Lifetime movie. It doesn't end well here. And you would have told your friend she was crazy, and then you would have immediately texted all the rest of your friends and been like, can you believe what Meghan's doing? She's going to go on a date with this guy. They're going to go camping in the woods. Even if this was not to Africa, if somebody asked you to go camping with them in the woods for 3 days, like for an extended amount of time on a third date, you would immediately be like, he will kill you. Now, granted, I think the guy's fame is the only thing that made her say yes to this, because anybody else asking you to go camp and then camp in another country, you would say you're nuts, right? And you would be well within your rights for being like, hey, could we slow it down for a minute? But, you know, it also kind of feels like to me, and like, I know, okay, let me just put on my granny glasses and, you know, my house coat. Isn't that a little bit fast to be going and sleeping around in some tent with some guy after, like, on your third date? Right? I mean, like, apart from the, like, are you going to come back from this alive element of going away with somebody and going and sleeping in a tent in the middle of the woods, there's the element of, but, like, what are you doing? Don't be a hussy. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, then he says, who said I love you first? And Meghan is very weird in answering this question. And she's like, he did. You know, smug even, you might say. Smug. Oh, you're blushing. And Meghan's like, still got it. It's a weird exchange. It's a weird exchange. It feels like she either knows she's lying and he didn't say it first, or she can't remember who said it first, you know? I don't remember which said it first, me or my husband. Like, I have no recollection of that. I just remember us both feeling the same way about each other. I don't remember it being one way or the other who said it first. It just was. Anyway, but I don't know. Like, maybe you guys have, like, specific memories. But I think she thought that she would be castigated if she said she couldn't remember. So it just feels like a lie. It feels like when she says this, it doesn't feel like truth to me. It doesn't have the ring of truth, my friends. Okay, after they get done making their VBS project, it's time to go, and they're going to make their hand pies. She's really excited about these hand pies because she says that when she was working as an actress, she would go on an audition, and the audition might go well, and if it did, she would take her busted, broken, beat-up car over to McDonald's, go through the drive-thru, and get herself a little apple pie to celebrate the moment. And for her, these little apple pies are really exciting because they have so much memory connected with them. So when she eats one of these pies, or a pie tasting like it, because of course she doesn't darken the doorstep of a McDonald's, she's not a disgusting degenerate, she is like eating a memory. You know, those flavors just bring up all of these high points, because whenever she had a high point, you know, auditions being one, but then really any high point in life, it was straight to the drive-thru for an apple pie. Okay. Here's the thing. Again, why am I being so mean? So many of us have these little things that we like to do. How many of us have, like, given ourselves a little food reward when something, well, you know, happens? You know, treat yourself, of course. So I don't know, I'm acting like, what is the story she's telling us? She very well may have gone to get herself a apple pie from McDonald's when something went well. But I think what bothers me is that in the retelling of the story, she says a lot of other people, if they did well on audition, would do something like, I don't know, like go to the gym or something, you know, like double down on what they felt had made them a success, but not me. Not me. I would go and get an apple pie from McDonald's. And I just feel like, give us your little memory without degrading somebody else's option. If they felt like, oh gosh, that went really well, I'm going to go work out or whatever, that's fine. You don't have to juxtapose what you did to try to make yourself seem more relatable. Stop trying to seem more relatable, because in the process, you seem like you're just putting down others to build yourself up. The same thing when Tan is being too bubbly on screen and she immediately tries to diminish him. You're full of beans, aren't you? Now she's trying to give us a little anecdote about a memory she had while generating somebody else's option or choice to celebrate a moment in a different way. I didn't go to the gym or anything like that. I would go get an apple pie because I'm so relatable. I don't know, Meghan. Are you? I don't know, Meghan. Just like learn. Just be you. Just find some way to be you. Don't try to be somebody else. Don't try to be what we want, because in the process of trying to be what everybody else wants, you will be someone no one wants. They start making the apple pie. Tan's talking about how he does a lot of cooking at home, does a lot of Indian cooking at home, he says. And he likes to make everything really spicy. Asks Meghan if she likes spicy food. She loves this question because, of course, she does love spicy food. She loves the fact that she's cultural enough to like spicy food. She's not like one of those annoying people that can't handle spice. And so he asks her, and you can just see she's delighted at being asked. She can't wait to tell him how much she loves spicy things. And, you know, Tan is laughing about his partner, like, you know, has to eat a bunch of Tums before he can sit down to a plate of Tan's food. And, you know, they're chit-chatting about one thing and another. He asks if they can put a little cayenne in the recipe they're making, not to make it hot, but just to make it warm. And, you know, it's clear that Meghan's wanting to be free enough to allow her guest to introduce some exotic element to the dish. But at the same time, this is her kitchen and her recipe, you know? She's making the hand pies. It's her memory, you know, that they're trying to recreate here. How can she make the McDonald's apple pie if he puts cayenne pepper in it? Well, because he'd already taken over the ginger. You know, he saw her grating a little ginger into it, and then she catches his eye, and she's like, oh, should I do more? And he's like, yes, I'll do it. So he grates in a whole bunch of it. Probably is delicious. And then he suggests the cayenne. It's like, okay, you know, and she's flustered. Instead of being like, absolutely, because it's a collaboration of the two of them on this show. So for him to want to inject a little spice into this, that's the perfect thing. It's her recipe, her pie, but her guest. And I thought that would have created a great moment. Instead, it's this awkward little dancing back and forth. It's the verbal equivalent of walking down the hallway and seeing somebody and trying to get past them, and they take a step and you take a step. It's so awkward. And all I want her to do is just say, absolutely, and then grab the cayenne, you know? But God forbid she's a comfortable host. This isn't a difficult project. It's not hard. It's not hard to be somebody that's easy to be around and warm and comfortable. I don't know. The setup is there for you to be as gracious as you want. You lack nothing. You have all the ingredients. You have everything you need. You have a whole staff of people. When we are not good hosts or hostesses, it's generally because we feel like we're lacking something that our participant would like us to have. We generally feel like we're not able to give the experience to our guests that we would want. That's not the problem here. So I don't understand why she keeps being so awkward with her guests, because nothing is lacking except herself. She's so uncomfortable with herself. She's the ingredient that's lacking on set. They have all the food they need, all the dishes they need, all the accoutrements, but she isn't able to show up the way she needs to. Oh gosh. Anyway, while they're dancing back and forth about what spices to put in, they finally agree to put in a little cayenne. I thought this was an interesting moment. She puts the apples on the stove to cook, and then she says she's going to mix some cornstarch and water to, as she says, make a slurry. Immediately my ears prick up. A slurry? We're using that word now, are we? Because to my recollection, she did not know what a slurry was. To my recollection, when her friend Vicky had been over and Vicky said she was going to make a slurry, Megan's like, what even is that word? Slurry. She made it seem like Vicky had just made up a word and that Vicky was dumb. Vicky's like, isn't that what you call it? And I've always heard cornstarch and water, when you mix it up, it's called slurry. I've always heard that. But, you know, different things from different places of the country. I'm not saying it's the only way to discuss cornstarch and water, but I'm just saying that wasn't a foreign word to me. Anyway, very interestingly, we hear a voiceover from Meghan interject just then. When you're thinking, slurry, I thought you didn't know that word. A voiceover comes in and says, that's a word I learned from my friend Vicky. And you can hear it's completely different sound than the rest of what's going on. We're not supposed to know it's a voiceover. We're supposed to think she said that while they're hyper-focusing on her hands. But as is so often in this show, we do a lot of focusing on our hands or on the project so that Meghan is able to do voiceovers of what she's saying. We'll even see, as we saw in this episode, where her words are not matching what her mouth is saying. It's almost matching, but not quite. And we see that a lot in this show. So much dubbing over. It's probably why they couldn't just release this whole thing as one long season, because they had to do so much redubbing and so much editing to make this even anything people would watch. All right. Finally, at this point, they are done with the apple pies. They're going to let them cool. And this is when she needs to give yet another gift. So, of course, she'd wrap those other presents. We never see her give those to him. But she has another gift. Now, I will say this is a super thoughtful gift, okay? I will give her props for this. She says that sometimes when she's out shopping, she'll go into a little shop, she'll see something really interesting. And she'll feel like that would be a great gift. It's not necessarily something I want, but I feel like that is something that I would like to have on hand to give. And what she found was masala daba, which is spice container for Indian spices, and it's kind of got this she found an antique one, and it's got this top that rolls back, and it's got all these little bowls for all the different spices. It's a beautiful gift, an antique. She said she found it in North Carolina, and so she wrapped it really beautifully in this silk scarf. And so we kind of have to have a whole scene where she teaches you how to wrap with a silk scarf. But when she gives the gift to him, I want to criticize just because it feels like it's all about making everyone be like, Meghan is so thoughtful. But the reality, it is a very thoughtful gift. So if I think to myself, Meghan, that was thoughtful, it is true. It was a thoughtful gift. At the same time, it feels wrong that Meghan, who knows that so many people have called her selfish, it feels like she's utilizing this moment to give a genuinely thoughtful thing to somebody who she knew would appreciate it, who cooks a lot at home and who's very plugged into his roots and his heritage. She knew he would love it, and he did. It's a really, his reception of the gift is very, very sweet. This was something he really enjoyed getting. And so for me, as I'm watching it, I'm like, this is such a lovely moment. And yet it feels so clouded over by the fact that I know that Meghan is answering her critics in this. I know that Meghan saw an absolute win in the giving of this gift. And there's a part of me that wants to be like, I just want to appreciate that somebody was made really happy by a thoughtful gift. And then there's the critic in me that goes, but she did it on purpose. She did it because she knew. And you know what? I'm going to choose in this moment to ignore the critic and just be happy that Tan was happy about the gift. Okay. And after they give the gift, then they go and they sit out on the beach and they eat their apple pies, and they have this, delightful little sunset moment where they drink their hot tea and they eat their apple pies. And honestly, it looks as cozy as can be. You think the show's over, right? I'm like, okay, let's wrap it up. I almost turned it off. I got up from what I was writing notes and watching the show. I got up to go grab myself a cup of coffee, and when I came back, the show was still rolling, and it was like this little cut at the end that was like an outtake. You guys, the final indignity. He tells her he's got the best of her skincare hack, that he is going to give her the thing her skin is just crying out for. He mixes up a packet of green tea into some Greek yogurt, and he mixes it all up, and then he's like, you're going to want to put this on your face. And I mean smeared on your face. I mean like thick. And he smears some on his face, and he's like, this is how thick I'm talking about. Meghan is so offended that he is suggesting that she needs skincare. And she's like, yeah, okay, well, if my skin ever changes, I'll try that. Basically, you've offended me. You're acting like something's wrong with my skin. I don't think there's anything wrong with my skin. And he is either not getting the message or he enjoys the fact that she's offended. But he's like, no, I'm serious. People won't even recognize you. Your kids won't even recognize you once you start doing this. She doesn't like it. And I can't tell if he was really trying to hurt her feelings, or because I think they were. I think she was offended. I think it annoyed her. Or if he genuinely was just like, this is so cool because you can put the Greek yogurt and the tea together and it just enlivens the skin. I don't know, but it is kind of awkward. I one time sent somebody some skincare products when I was in Germany just because I really liked them. It was a family member, and not my immediate family. And I thought that she would really enjoy receiving these because I really like the products, and they are more expensive in the States than they were in Germany. So I got a bunch and sent it to her. She sent it back to me because she was offended that I would, I don't know, be making some kind of oblique suggestion she needed skincare, which I wasn't. I just was like, oh, wow, this is a good deal. I've seen it in America twice as much. And so I've never, ever suggested skincare to anybody in my life again, just because I was like, oh, I didn't know it was offensive. So maybe Tan was in the same situation I was. Maybe he just thought he had a nice tip or trick and he thought he would give it to Meghan. She didn't think so. And that is the end of that episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Tomorrow we'll do episode 4. And then, of course, like I always say, Friday, we've got Friday News Roundup. I've had a couple of people still asking me about Entitled. Can I just tell you guys right now, I'm going to do it. I promise I'm going to do it. I just want to get all these Meghan shows out of the way first. It's just easier for my brain to organize information like that. So I'm going to do all these Meghan shows and then we'll get to the book. But it's just, for me, it's helpful that way. If you're wringing your hands or feeling like I didn't tell you the truth, or she said she's going to do it and she's not, I am. I just need to get all this out of the way first. All right. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. I'll see you again tomorrow. Bye.